So again, Division I, we're looking at the most competitive environment. Some schools are listed there. Not all schools in Division I will offer scholarships, by the way. I want to be mindful of that. Some sports are given more scholarships, especially after Title IX, which is a fantastic initiative. And we'll see that there are more women's sports than men's, which I think is absolutely a requirement, especially given the, I think, disparity of, this is a personal opinion, of course, disparity of coverage of women's sports versus men's. I think it's absolutely necessary that we have things like this in place. Another thing I want to know is in the Ivy League, there are no scholarships for athletics. They do not offer that. They do offer need-based admissions for students, but there are no scholarships in the Ivy League. It will come through a bit of a different channel. One thing I do want to be mindful of when we're talking about the student athlete experience in Division I, it's very different. A lot of time is devoted to the athletics, and students should consider this before choosing to attend a Division I school. They are spending a lot of time on the road. They're traveling across the country for events. They do not have as much class time. So they need to be very much self-disciplined to be able to get that academic experience that they might want. Division II, again, more regional in nature, but they can be larger. Some popular Division II schools are Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, G. Tyler, Hawaii Pacific, and Simon Fraser. So this is the exception I gave. They're in Canada. They're in Vancouver, Canada. They're the only international university that's in the NCAA and sanctioned. So if students are Canadian on this call or who wish to go up north, then absolutely take a look at Simon Fraser. Fantastic school. Like I said, majority of the schools do offer scholarships in D2, but these usually are not full tuition covering like they are in Division I, but you still see it there, absolutely. Division I, Division II applicants or student athletes have a bit of a different process. Example, the NCAA Eligibility Center. So students who wish to be recruited should have an account on the NCAA Eligibility Center, have their documents verified to make sure that their eligibility is verified, particularly on amateur status. So if anyone is competing at the professional or semi-professional levels, particularly for tennis, where payment is often seen in terms of prize money, this needs to be verified. For example, student athletes who compete at the professional level, at least in tennis, can accept prize money that covers their expenses, but no more. So there is quite a bit of vetting done there. I say standardized test scores are required, particularly because we're seeing that more commonly for admissions in the US, but of course, COVID has still waived that to an extent. National letter of intent is another point I want to reference. So a lot of students just signed this earlier this week. This is a legal document that binds a student to that school. Think of it like an early decision application, same thing. Students are committing to that school. I was offered national letter of intent. I read it and said, no, nope, it's not the school I want. Even though I was getting a very substantial scholarship to that school, it wasn't the right fit for me. And to be honest, looking back, I am so happy I did not go to that school. Not because it's a bad school, no shame on that, but the experience I had would have been vastly different looking at how the trajectory went. So to explain that, if a student does not adhere to the national letter of intent stipulations, there is a 1-year penalty where students cannot compete in sanctioned competition if they transfer. Example, if a student signs a NLI, a national letter of intent to UCLA, and then they want to transfer to UT Austin, they can't be playing for a year. Now, if the student goes to UCLA, but then transfers to NYU, a Division III school, that's allowed to compete. So it's a bit of a different focus point regarding national letters of intent. Again, most important is that first point for Division I and II student athletes. They should have an account on the NCAA Eligibility Center. Division III. So I'm most fond of Division III. I competed in it, coached in it. I think it's fantastic. It's the most inclusive environment for student athletes. There are, I think, opportunities for everyone in Division III. It just depends on the school, of course. There is the most balance between student and athlete in Division III. Students compete for about 5 months out of the year, and their competitions are usually during the weekend, so it's a bit more flexible. Like I said before, the profile of a student athlete would need to be quite similar to the admissions profile, but you can find student athletes who are almost there, but still getting the extra support to get into these schools. I want to be mindful about competitiveness in Division III. I get a lot of questions about, oh, if I'm competing at X level, am I going to get that high level of my sport? Absolutely. The NESCAC, the UAA, the S or SEAC or SIACC are the strongest three conferences in Division three. Again, generally speaking, but then you'll find schools that are less competitive, perhaps throughout the country. Maybe they're a bit smaller. Does depend on sports, of course, but that is the option. In Division three, there truly is a place for everyone. It's just where that place is might be a bit different.